So we are heading into this afternoon as our last session, and we are going to be joined for our first virtual keynote of the day. Associate Professor ElanaCurtis. All the stories I could tell about Auntie Ty. I first met Elana, I think, when we were 18, and both students at the University of Auckland. That wasn't that long ago, I want to say. Well, it kind of was. But Auntie Tai, we're sorry that you can't be here because it's your birthday, but Hari Huri Tai. And we are very excited, though, to have you join us virtually. So thank you for making the time during your birthday week. We're so excited. Just for Auntie Tai, we have an amazing crowd. They're a mix of Otako Whakaihuoka staff and researchers and teachers and clinicians. We've got our Te Whatu Ora colleagues here, our Māori Health colleagues. We've got our University of Canterbury colleagues. I just met a wonderful woman from Wanganui, and we've got a lot of other Māori providers and other amazing allies in the room with us, just to give you a hint on who's here. Now, Auntie Tai is an Associate Professor of Māori Health at the University of Auckland, and she's also a public health medicine specialist. Her work focuses on Indigenous health workforce development and addressing inequities within the healthcare system through kaupapa Māori research. And I'll also do a shout out to her because just like Maida's discussion, Auntie Tai had to hand in her flash public health clothes and put on her scrubs and also join the vaccine movement in 20 and 21. So we're grateful for her continual contribution to Haora Māori. So kia ora, Auntie Tai, come on in.
Kia ora, Suze. E rauranga tēnā mā tēnā rā koutou. Thanks, Suze. Lovely to see you there. I can't quite see everyone, but yeah, I've got 15 minutes to share some things with you. I just want to do a shout out to Nina Scott, who gave me like a week and a half's notice for this talk. Can you guys hear me all right? Suze? You're looking funny. Oh, yep. Okay, cool. So I have decided, and I didn't know what the topic of the day was, and I got told. So I have just pulled together some thinkings for you just to share in the next 15 minutes. And I'm going to share a little bit about my background, a bit more about also where these thoughts are coming from. And they're from my sort of more recent experience working in the health sector. It's the intersection between research really and policy advice and trying to inform ourselves. So I bring my research expertise in here. And when I'm actually now trying to help work and advise in with the work that I'm doing, which I'll explain in a bit. And I'll just try and see if I can move here we are. Oh, cool. I'm going to share top 5 myths that I have been experiencing currently. And I just want to sort of use them to highlight this session, which is really thinking about how we use data to in an advocacy role. But a little bit slightly more about me. I come from Te Arawa. This is my beautiful Eagles Treaty. And my maunga matawhāura there. My people are Ngāti Rongomai, Ngāti Pukeao. So yeah, my background obviously starts here as a descendant of the Te Arawa waka. Trained in medicine and then public health medicine as my specialty. So I won't give you, well, actually Suze has probably already hinted what decade that was, which was a while ago. My kaupapa Māori research background was honed at Te Ropu Rangahau Hauora Iri Pōmare. I guess been doing Masters of Public Health there alongside Papa Arangi, Bridget, and the late Vera. This was really the first chance to actually learn how to articulate how research and how data can be part of our emancipation as Māori when done correctly from a kaupapa Māori positioning. So it was an amazing experience to do that and to get Masters of Public Health there. Then there's a number of other things, but basically I'm also pulling on my experience as an Associate Professor in Māori Health, having been at the Auckland Uni for about 17 years, leading MAPAS, go MAPAS, being a Māori researcher, being a Māori teacher, and yeah, and as Sue said, got pulled into COVID, and actually I'm now a consultant with Taikura Consultants, which is my own business, I guess, still providing some, well, contracted in to provide some advice to Te Aka Whaiora as well now, obviously, as Hauora Māori services. And interestingly, coming in with the academic background into the practice on the ground for health, what some of the challenges I can see are for people and that I'm coming across, which is what I want to share with you today about some of those myths that I think we need to deconstruct. This is from my worldview anyway. Oh, myth number one. This is the myth now, and this, I don't know if you'll be aware, but there are some of the work that I was helping to lead within Te Aka Whai Ora was the development of iwi Māori partnership board profiles. So we've had a number of really important ways to look at our data. Obviously, Hauora 4 series, then we've had Tātou Kahukura from the Ministry of Health, we've had the DHB profiles led by Bridget, etc. And there's some other work from HQSC. But really, we haven't had much since 2015 in terms of national data. So these are probably the first reports that we've got available to us to have an updated sort of version look in at Māori health. They're only iwi Māori partnership board specific. So they're like New Zealand broken up into little bits. We could only really draw on public sources of data to actually get some picture of what's going on for us in these profiles. But as one of the lead authors, I was really clear that actually this data is a slice of whānau voice. It's a slice of our reality and our lived reality, and it's a really important slice, just as any other slices. However, the pushback has been, no, whānau voice can only come from qualitative data, and you cannot say that this quantitative data is whānau voice. I think this is partly reflects the fact that whānau voice, in terms of qualitative data, hasn't been prioritised enough across the sector, hasn't been given the value that it should. But in that devaluing of whānau voice, and from a qualitative perspective, I'm arguing here that actually that's a bit of a myth that we should reject quantitative data as not offering some level of whānau voice. Really, qualitative and quantitative data methods are just that, they're just methods. And why on earth would we not want to be able to draw on both types of methods in which to do our work around Māori health inequities? So the fact, how we position ourselves when we look at either qual or quant is really the key issue, because you can do both types of data methods badly, and you can do both types really well, especially if you position yourself from a kaupapa Māori perspective. So this is the first myth that I wanted to sort of just highlight. I could be controversial here because I know there's a bit of a backlash to us stating that those profiles are a slice of whānau voice, but I'm up for the debate at least anyway, so that we can have that kōrero and know that actually we should be having access to all of it. All of it is just equally as important, and that probably reflects my background as both a qualitative and a quantitative researcher. The second myth I want to share is about the idea that when we put up data, especially quantitative data that might show a gap between Māori and non-Māori, that we're being part of the problem, because all we're wanting to do is highlight the gap between Māori and non-Māori, and that's bad because it's totally negative and you're constantly putting up, gaps from a negative perspective, and actually in our rights to reclaim back and retell our own stories, which we see as strengths-based. We don't want to have the inequities data put in front of us. And it's almost seen as if that's colonizing of our own potential to tell our own stories. I have some concerns with this. When I see a gap between Māori and non-Māori, that's not because I think we have to be like non-Māori. I see that as a critique on society and power and privilege, racism, and what is or is not being achieved for us as Māori, or what is not being realised for us as Māori. And for me, that is about a rights, social justice issue. And so actually how I talk to that gap is the key issue. When I see the gap, I just see the bad behaviour of our government, or the bad behaviour of our system, which privileges some people who haven't earned it, but just happen to be privileged, and disadvantage some people who haven't earned that disadvantage and just happen to be in that situation. So this again is about having a structural analysis, and the idea that actually we need to talk to all the data, not just try and sort of present only the really good stuff and try and pretend there aren't gaps. There are gaps. This is part of our lived reality, and I think we should be telling that. So we need to speak for that data rather than, pretending it's just out there and there's only one way to talk to it. The third myth that I've been experiencing, and this has actually been quite interesting because of the increased prominence we sort of gave mātauranga Māori, particularly within Te Aka Whaiora. Obviously anything Māori now is not being given any much prominence, but mātauranga Māori was really looked to when Te Aka Whaiora was in place, and I think it was really important to understand that. And so whilst mātauranga Māori and growing that voice was really, really important during this time of Te Aka Whaiora and still is, became this notion that only mātauranga Māori, i.e. the traditional version of mātauranga Māori, was of any value, and actually having subject matter expertise who might be coming in from a kaupapa Māori positioning was not needed. We only need answers that come from our traditional cultural values and knowledge. I have concerns about that because I feel like, again, it doesn't need to be either or, it should be and. We need both types of knowledge. In the work I was doing in Te Aka Whaiora, we also did some work around trying to actually, well, what is mātauranga Māori and how do we actually think about it? And so we helped to define that for Te Aka Whaiora, and at that time was saying it's actually traditional, contemporary, and future knowledge systems for us. It actually should be able to draw on multiple and various sources of Māori knowledge and expertise. There's no defining or confining it into one way of being. All of our knowledge is our knowledge that is under our control, and that can be fluid and evolving and change over time, and reflects our lived reality from our local environments and geographies and all of it. So I just want to acknowledge my positioning on that. The other thing here is that actually mātauranga Māori has huge benefits for us to engage with, but we mustn't actually lose sight that some of the issues for us, for our health, is actually not about, it's not our issues driving it, it's actually white privilege and Pākehātanga and other issues driving it. So that will require non-mātauranga Māori based interventions that come from them, because it's actually nothing to do with ourselves. We're not actually causing that trouble. So putting that out there as well for discussion. Fourth myth is the focus right now, which is local data, local responsibility, local disbursement of resources. That's the key to addressing Māori health. So we're basically putting a huge emphasis on local solutions, and therefore that has flowed through into data as well, and particularly the Iwi Māori Partnership Board profiles give local data for Iwi Māori Partnership Boards, but actually we really need another level up, which would combine all that data for a national picture at the same time, so that each Iwi Māori Partnership Board could actually take their data, compare it to national data, and so there's a meaningful comparator, and you could start to unpack and explore whether there were any differences for you in comparison to other areas, but also nationally. We don't have that yet, and I think that we should, and that work should be invested in still. So that's one issue. The other concern I have about breaking down only to a local level is that some data sets, some data sources are not appropriate at just a local level. That could be due to small numbers and rare events of things we're looking at, that the data isn't actually collected at that local level, or that it's just inappropriate because it doesn't make sense as a variable to look at that, particularly like mortality data. Life expectancy can be quite so small that you don't want to break it down to such a local level. You need to come up some levels. So that's sort of understanding kaupapa Māori epidemiology, and understanding that. The other thing is, I know that our Iwi Māori Partnership Boards really wanted local data, and there's this huge drive to say we must have our data to know what's going on. But actually, some of these issues don't change when you go from Te Arawa over to Tūwharetoa. Is exactly the same because the drivers are exactly the same, which is white privilege and racism and power inequities. So it doesn't change because we're in a different iwi group. Actually, it's still the same. And you could probably easily identify what you need to do for your own local iwi just using the national data set, because really there isn't that much difference across in terms of patterns across our iwi. That's not 100%. I'm being really high level about this, but I do think we want to be careful about thinking that we have to know absolutely in this particular local area what's going on instead of getting on with the job, which is really very similar across most of our local areas. The other thing here is we keep chucking everything out to iwi Māori partnership boards and to ourselves to fix the problem, but actually the government has the most power, the government has the most resources, and they then get to absolve themselves of any responsibility to address Māori health because they're empowering local communities. So I'm worried. I'm worried about the passing of the buck on to us. It needs to be a balance. And my last myth that I wanted to talk about quickly was a myth that I've been hearing, that we don't want to focus on ethnicity data. We should just have iwi data. And again, I have concerns about that because ethnicity data is key to monitoring the Crown for ethnic inequities. When you're in the health sector, we have ethnicity data by which to monitor the Crown on. We don't collect iwi data for a number of things. So it's the most routinely collected, albeit poorly, despite our ethnicity data protocols for the last 20 years. That's because of a lack of investment and care and desire to have really high quality ethnicity data in this country. But we need it to be of better quality, but it is the best data we've probably got on which to monitor the Crown. It's an important marker and determinant of health, so I would not want to lose ethnicity data. We also want to have a time series so that we can compare over time, and so that we can tell the story over time in an appropriate and high quality way. So that needs to maintain consistency. Overall, though, the thing is, we should have access to iwi data. That's our right, but so is ethnicity data. So I'm going to sum up just to challenge ourselves as we think about how to use data in order to advocate for Māori health, is to try and reject the too simple notion of doing either or and putting up one over the other and having us infighting with each other about the positioning, but embrace and, because they're both really, really important. So what I wanted to share today is that I would love it if we could see that whānau voice can be both qualitative and quantitative evidence bases and data, that Māori health inequity and Māori health success stories should both be told. They're both important. It's not either or. Mātauranga Māori includes the traditional cultural knowledge, and it includes contemporary kaupapa Māori expertise. We need both, access to both. And that local and national data are important to still monitor the Crown and identify solutions, because some of those solutions are not always locally based. Some of them are about how the government sets its agenda out and what it rolls out and funds. And we have rights to both high quality ethnicity data and high quality iwi level data. And so that's my little myth busting for the day, and I'm hoping that sets us up for a nice little session. So I'll stop there. I don't know how long I spoke for, so hopefully not too long. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Auntie Tai. Thank you. Ho mai te whakatau.